a born West Indian, and I went to seek my fortune in England. But when I landed in London, I just could not understand. I found the place very disappointing, Lord. Yes, the sight was frightening, the buildings were so dismal and so old. Yes, brother, England was cold. Lord, look, I want to go. I can't stay here no more. The West Indies is my home. I can't stay out longer to roam. Yes, the healthy tropical sun, the friendly people to keep me warm. So I'm going back to the West Indies. I'm going back to the West Indies.
Go back where you came from is gutter abuse. Voluntary repatriation is Mr. Enoch Powell's phrase. They mean the same thing. Juanita Graham and her husband Othniel are planning to return to Trinidad after 7 years in this country. But for them, going back to the West Indies is a disillusioned escape from England's cold climate and even colder treatment of coloured immigrants. Juanita's disenchantment with England began soon after she arrived.
I expected it to be much more advanced. The buildings to be higher and everything to be much quicker, faster, you know, and taxis running all over the place and lots of lovely houses and not everybody crowded into one little room, you know, that sort of thing. And it never, nothing, you know, no colour prejudice occurred to me. I didn't realise that they had colour prejudice. I didn't realise that you had difficulty in getting a room or anywhere to live, you know, because of colour. I didn't realise that. It was a shock to me when I saw on the boards no colours, you know, that was a shock to me. And we didn't think of colour at all, think of any discrimination whatsoever. And you just thought you would come here and get a job and perhaps study or something. You thought it would be a marvellous place for studying and perhaps learn a little from the people and seeing their ways and the way they behaved, you know, a little of their culture. I'd hoped it would rub off on me at the time, you know.
Why do you say you don't belong here?
Because, number one, I wasn't born here. Number two, the people here, the people who are governing this country aren't my people, you know. You govern your country your way, and you have your own ideas, your own cultures, and your own type of entertainment, your own everything. And we have ours, and I like ours, you know. I like our way of living. You miss Trinidad, you miss Trinidad.
The music alone, sunshine, sea bars.
And don't forget Carnival.
A longing for home is a pervasive influence in the lives of many West Indian immigrants, and they feel sentimental at farewell parties like this. They play their records, have a few drinks, and talk about the good times back home. But for most of them, unlike Juanita and Othniel, it's only a dream. They know it wouldn't work out in practice.
I know you enjoy yourself socially, there is no question about that. I was just worried about your economic position.
We are worried about the economic position.
And I suppose it's the question, when I was at home, I never worried about money. But when you come to this country, money is so, you get so involved.
Come here, haven't you? You've changed.
Yeah.
Now your values have changed.
Yeah, my values have definitely been changed since I came here. The quid has become very important.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's the thing, you see.
Because that is what goes in this country. At home is happiness.
But Joe, if you're ambitious and you live in a shack, you can make a shack a good home. You can get the materials and do things. You can really do things. Don't depend on the individual. A person can live in a shack and live in peace, or you can live in a shack and get into a nice home.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you have something to cover your head at night, and you're happy night and day, you want nothing more. Because people with Rolls Royce and things like that, that's just what they're doing.
Never satisfied. Even when you're rich and you've achieved the ultimate, you know, money, what else is there to get?
Because if I
get so poor,
if I want to save 10 pounds, right?
I'm
having a hard time to save it, and I got 10 pounds, it seems like nothing to me once I got it.
Yes.
It's when you haven't got it.
Yeah.
then
look
it seems
something.
important.
Mr. Graham and Mistress Graham, you know, I think, regardless to what the gentleman and the lady said, don't take no notice of that. Regardless what you have, whether you would see good or see bad in Trinidad, I know you and Mr. Graham will be very happy. Mr. Graham, you'll be very happy because you're born in Trinidad, and Mrs. Graham, you're from Jamaica. And having music all the time in Trinidad, regardless no money, regardless the money or not, you're bound to feel happy.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Because when you have
Because
music
happiness
and
is active.
sunshine and everything, you
What
don't
people
need
want
money,
is
do you?
happiness.
You
England,
need
you,
happiness.
regardless you have the money here, there's no happiness.
Well,
the
look,
place
look,
is
at,
dead.
look at the flower people and all these
Isn't
people. What
it?
are they seeking for? They're seeking for something.
Yeah.
They want something. They're not getting it here. They're trying to get. They're trying to
should
take
come to the
drugs
West.
to get away, get it out of it. Surely it's not a healthy society to live in.
They should come to the West Indies. They get happiness.
I mean, you know, you don't want to take drugs to be happy, do you?
Look, all we want is music. And that's what we get. Money don't come down, let us give us music.
Are you going to eat music?
That's what Trinidad, music all the time.
Arthnall trained as a mechanic in the British Army, now earns nearly £30 a week with long hours of overtime. He's a skilled man, a man who could get a job anywhere in this country. But for him, money isn't everything.
Since I'm in England, I never really settled down, you know. When I go back home, I'm hoping to, well, I would settle down. Sort of unsettled in this country. Because you don't know whether you want to stay or you want to go. But that's the only reason why I'm unsettled. And if I know definitely that I'm going to stay here, then I'll settle myself.
What is the thing that you most dislike about this country as you find it?
I don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like the way you word things. For instance, you say, would you like to do so and so? Would you like to get that? When you really mean, can you get that for me? You always seem to you refrain from using the word please. Can you please get that for me? Or something. You always say, would you like to do that? If you don't want to do it, you know, it's not expected that you should say no. You must just do it. Because when I began working here, I used to take everything literally. And the boss asked me, would you like to go to the post office? And I said no, but I didn't realize that I was supposed to say yes, you know. And my mate, you know, she said to me, you're not supposed to say no, you know. But I don't like that. And your way of being non-committal. For instance, you can't be sure that you'll be getting a compliment. It may not be a compliment. It may not be a compliment, you know. Maybe it's something else. If they say, oh, you speak English quite well, you know, they may say that. We were taught to speak English. In our country, we speak English. We don't have a language of our own. We've got English as our mother tongue. So therefore, it's not a compliment to say speak English very well, you know, for us.
Do you think then there is a sort of veiled insult behind that?
Oh yes. At first, you take everything literally, you know, and then you realize, you know, the subtle things behind all these things. The more you live here, the more you get to realize, because when you come here, you're innocent and fresh and open, used to people being open to you. And gradually you begin to understand that it doesn't mean that, it means something else. And you really develop some sort of suspicion. There was an exhibition once at the school for mothers around to come and see what school was like, and talk with some mothers who had children attending the school, you know. And once I was waiting out in, you know, where we all wait, and there I just noticed this woman was saying, asking questions like, does your little girl like it here? You know, how does she like it? What do they do here? And those sort of questions. She never once addressed me, you know. She never, you know, she didn't even notice me. And that sort of thing, you know, she was a mother wanting to know about the school and the children and how the children liked it. And yet she never turned once to me and said anything to me. And I felt a bit left out, you know, that's all. You just feel a little bit left out, and you can't make contact because they're not very not that they're unfriendly. They're not unfriendly, but they just, there's no smile of welcome, you know what I mean? For you to sort of smile back and say something.
Why, no.
The Graham's 4 children, Tonya, who's nearly 5, Katya, Sonia, and baby David, were all born in England. They're all citizens of this country. Juanita takes scrupulous care of them, but like almost all immigrants, she's forced to bring them up in overcrowded conditions. Her dream of going back home is a dream of going to a place where the children don't have to share one bedroom with herself and her husband.
Hands together, nice. Mommy. Hands together and close your eyes. That's the way. Good night, sweet Jesus, my Savior. Good night, sweet Mary, my mother. I give you my heart.
What do you most look forward to about the idea of going back?
House, you know, having many rooms, more for having many bedrooms, many rooms for eating in, you know, separate room for dining and that sort of thing. That's what I look forward to most. And the private yard in the back for the children to play. Not to have to run around and go to the park every time you want to get a little fresh air, you know.
Do you think you're going to be able to get that?
Maybe not as luxuriously as I put it, but I think we will get it in a little smaller way, yes.
Do you think you're going to be as well off financially there as you are here?
We're not very well off here. I don't think we'll be any less well off there.
How much have you saved in anticipation of going home?
The bare minimum. You want to know the exact amount? £200. That's to settle with. And it cost us £100 to settle here in this flat, so it really isn't a lot of money, but...
Just enough to sort of put you right for the first... for getting off the ground.
Yes.
The practical details of moving, the feelings of decisive action in packing up and saying goodbye, mask the fact that the Grahams haven't really faced up to the realities of their situation. £200 isn't going to get them anywhere. But for them, England grows colder and more inhospitable every minute. Tobago, the island near Trinidad where Othno was born, seems more and more attractive. For the moment, that's enough. Are you quite sure that you're doing the right thing?
I'm sure about doing the right thing, yes. But what I said, you can't be sure of what the situation would be like when you get there.
How much have you done to find out what it will be like?
Didn't do anything, as a matter of fact. Didn't do anything to find out.
Why? Why not?
Well, this is like an adventure more, you know. If I know exactly what it's like, it won't be so exciting. Or you probably have people talking to you so much that you could change your mind. You might be doing the wrong thing by changing your mind.
Carl Constantine never intended to stay in England. He came here 6 years ago to study accountancy, and after a long, hard slog through technical college, he's at last got his qualifications and can go back to Trinidad. Like many West Indians, he finds release in music, and his band plays once a week in a London pub. The pub is thronged with people, white as well as black. It's one of the small ways in which West Indians enrich the lives of the rest of us. Outside the pub after the session, the players talk about their longing for home. All of them would like to go back, but most of them know that for them it's impossible.
Normally, if I could get a job, good pay and whatnot home, I'll naturally go home, because life is easier. I mean, you're among your own. I mean, you could do certain things without having to have to work on farm or change or, But here, every time you start to do something, you got to think, am I doing right? Is this the sort of society that would accept my way of thinking, all that sort of thing? It's just...
Another point that most West Indians have to consider too is you left the West Indies 10 years ago and you came to England and you left a kid 10 years old and you stay in England for 10 years. When you go back to the West Indies, that kid is 20 years old. And most of those kids leave in school with 4 or 5 GCs and they can't get jobs, let alone you who's 10 years out here and go back. What are you going to do when you get back there?
It's very difficult to go back without some sort of qualification or something like that, or money, at least some money, If you could save a lot of money, would you go back then?
Become an MPS and send you back.
Yeah, but having arrived back there, what's going to happen? You got the money to go back, and then you got to get a job again.
Well, excuse me, I'm not fast, but have any of you ever been back home since you're here in England?
I have.
No, I haven't.
You have never been back. Well, then you go back and see for yourself. You go back and see for yourself. I was back in '66, and it's very bad there. I'll tell you straight.
I'm due to
Because
go.
as he said, you go back to a job. You have to get a job from here first. You must remember those fellas at home. They want jobs too. And you can't come from England and go back and get it before them. That's just ridiculous.
For most of their 6 years in London, the Constantines made the usual bitter round of seedy lodging houses, trying to find a decent place to live. At last they found a flat in Hampstead, but shortly afterwards Carl's wife Bernice had a baby and she went back to Trinidad, where Carl now has a job waiting for him. But he's aware that he's leaving behind a life in this country that has some advantages.
It's easier at the bottom structure here. For instance, in our country, Trinidad, and other countries such as ours, very often we have high unemployment, no opportunity at all for a certain section of the population. Here, this hardly exists. So a man is a man here at the lowest level. After that, then it becomes more difficult. And, but the middle classes upward, you just can't go any further. But in smaller countries, I think it's easier to get ahead.
What would you have felt about bringing up your child here had you been obliged to stay here for any reason?
Well, I don't like it at all, really. That part of it, and mainly because of his color. A person born in a white country, a black child, could grow up with a very tall and complex, would be a very troubled individual. Of course, it depends on the individual all the way, but I wouldn't like to take the chance and subject, if perhaps he turns out to be a sensitive boy, to this sort of thing, because it could sort of ruin you forever. And I wouldn't like to gamble on it.
So you think his chances are better in Trinidad than they are here?
Yeah, especially in the early stages. At this age, the age when he gets to school age, he can sort of graft his way among his own people and settle down. Here, he might be the odd man out, and I don't like it at all. I want him to be a loner and that sort of person. It's no good.
Do you think he'll also enjoy his childhood more?
Yes, we enjoy childhood down there much more. We remain boys for much longer. We play a lot of games, more than you do here. And that's very important, I think, for childhood. In this country, with your mode of living, the flats, for example, which we don't have many of, a child is subjected to such nearness to his parents that he tends to become grown up before he should, I think, anyway. So.
Do you think the quality of life is different in Trinidad from what it is here?
Oh yes, it's very much different. It's a gear climb. We wear different clothes. We have different attitudes. It's very laissez-faire, which is not always a good thing. But some people would argue that that's what all life is all about.
Life is more fun?
Oh yes, much more fun. We don't worry about budgets as much as you do.
How do you find most English people?
Well, you find most English people the same, really, because, well, I don't meet all English people, you know. I meet, very often I meet people, students, professors, people like that. Well, they're all very well-mannered, you know, and they don't show, their feelings are not as near the surface as they always are, you know. So it's difficult to really differentiate between one English person and another, except some issue comes up, you know. I mean, they're all very nice and straightforward, kind and mannerly, well-mannered. And that's all I can say about them, really.
Do you feel that the good manners are hiding prejudice?
Well, yes, I'm sure it does. But then good manners are in themselves things that hide feelings. If you have good manners, very often you're annoyed and you don't show that you're annoyed, so, and it's called good manners. So it does, I'm sure. For instance, what that brought this home to me was after the Powell scare recently, there were a lot of opinion polls. And there was a poll that was 99-point-something% that all kind of people should go back home. I mean, if a nation felt that strongly about an issue, you'd expect to see it reflected in the streets, in their daily attitudes and so on. But you don't see that. When a secret poll is taken, you see figures like 99%.
The dog bite the little child and you never even look at the little dog to see what is wrong. You're carrying the dog before you look at the child.
60% of English people suffering from personal pride, you know, pride, fear. Because you have done so much bad things to us in the past. You believe we'll get on top and do the same thing back again. Fear, that's what's killing you a lot. Fear and ignorance. Ignorance and fear. Intelligent fools you lot you are. You're going to cut because of the color of the skin. What can you do about this?
Nothing.
Then why you worry about it then, bro?
Oh, don't worry about it, mate.
What can you do about it?
I work with you.
You're born there for everybody. You live, born and die. No, you can't be none with you. What are you do about it?
I work with you, chap.
Race violence in this country can blow up over simple misunderstandings. This row started over a white-owned dog that bit a coloured child. But Jamaican-born Mrs. Tyson and her son John stay well out of it. This is a part of Birmingham with a very mixed population, the kind of area where Enoch Powell's speeches are like a spark to tinder. Here, Mrs. Tyson has to put up with poverty in one tiny room, which she's obliged to share with 12-year-old John. Mrs. Tyson has plenty of reason to want to go home.
The life that I live, that's one. And my health isn't as good as before. Those are the things, really, that has gotten me down.
You don't like the surroundings in which you live?
Not the people. The people doesn't bother me. But it's as if one's living as a bird in a cage. You know.
What do you think particularly gives you that feeling?
Well, I've never been used to that type of life so far, you know.
In what ways, then, was your life different from the life you lead here?
Well, I lead a more home life, living in a community, being part of a community with my friends. You understand? I had different things to take up my interest. Not just going to work and getting home, getting to bed, getting up in the morning, going to work, back in. No.
Mrs. Tyson is going back to Jamaica to rejoin the family she left 8 years ago. She has no job to go back to. Here, she sorts nuts and bolts for £10 a week because arthritis makes it impossible for her to get anything better. In Jamaica, she'll be lucky to get anything at all. The change will also be difficult for John. John was only 4 when he came here. His best friend is an English boy. In fact, John himself is more English than anything else, a black brummie. Among his friends, colour prejudice is rare.
Once in a while.
And what sort of thing happens once in a while?
Well, the usual thing, they call you black this and black that, and then you lose your temper and you start to fight. But then after a while, everybody forgets it and we're all friends again.
But does it hurt you when that sort of thing happens?
Not at all.
You're used to it?
Yes, I'm rather used to it.
Is there anything you, apart from seeing your brother, that makes you especially look forward to going to Jamaica then?
Oh, well, I can't think of anything now.
Which do you feel is your country, Jamaica or England?
I think Jamaica's my country, but England's my adopted country.
I am afraid then that this undercurrent of friction between the youths that are coming up in this country, my lad may get involved, you see, and eventually he may, not having anyone else to cling to, he may get in the wrong set of, the wrong set, be involved with the wrong set of boys, and I may not be able to control him.
Do you think he might also get bitter, that he might feel discriminated against?
I think so.
For yourself, looking back to the time when you first came to this country, and even before that, what idea did you have of England before you came here?
Well, my idea of England was that it was just my country as well. Not really where I was born, but in school, what I was taught and what I was led to believe, that England was still my home, and I was free then to come and enjoy whatever it is that England has to offer. Any one of the people from any one of her colonies. So I never stopped to think that we wouldn't be wanted or we wouldn't be appreciated, and I think that's what it amounts to. I don't say all English people do not appreciate us or do not want us here, but it boils down to the fact that it would be better if we went back where we came from. And for me, then I think that they would think that life would be much more happier for them if we all went back.
When she first decided to give up and go back, Mrs. Tyson, who's parted from her husband, applied for an assisted passage. It was refused on the ground that she was still working.
Can you tell me how much sterling currency you're taking out with it, please?
I haven't got it.
None at all. Have you much foreign currency?
No.
All right, thank you.
Long before Enoch Powell suggested it, it's been possible for West Indians to get an assisted passage, but only if they're already living on Social Security. Out of something like 16,000 returning West Indians over the last 4 years, only 243 families have qualified for it. Mrs. Tyson, like most who do go back, saved the money herself and then booked a passage on an old Spanish ship. As you might expect, accommodation for the 2-week voyage is not luxurious. Nevertheless, it's cost her almost every penny she has.
Now you're going to your cabin. You can't stay here.
I'll take this inside now.
No.
Yeah, I can go now.
You can wait a minute.
I want to put on some different clothes.
I want to go. I can't stay here no more. The West Indies is my home. I can't stay on longer to roam. The healthy tropical sun and the friendly people to keep me warm. I'm going back to the West Indies. I'm going back
On the dockside in Kingston, the family she hasn't seen for 8 years are waiting. Michael, the son whose upbringing she paid for throughout the long years in England, Mrs. Grant, her sister, who cared for him, and all the other friends and relatives who are bound in a West Indian family.
This is Grace, our daughter.
Yes.
How is it?
Oh, not bad. It's good to be home. Oh, yes.
We're here, I roam. There is nowhere like home.
Remember me?
What a tall lad he is.
Yes. So what have you done with Johnny?
John?
Oh, come on, Johnny, come forward. You, Johnny, don't remember me at all. Big man.
Yes, that's right.
Jamaica's a place for nostalgia, for recapturing the joys of childhood. For the moment, it doesn't seem to matter that Mrs. Tyson and John spent all night in the customs shed waiting for their baggage to be unloaded, nor that once again they're sharing cramped accommodation in her sister's house. For the moment, there's only gladness to be home.
Oh, I can't express. Regardless of the setbacks that I've had, I'm rather happy to be home.
What makes you feel happy?
Well, being away from home, my family and friends, for 8 years and a half, I think anyone would be happy to be among your friends and family and to see your homeland. Don't you think?
What about seeing Jamaica itself again?
Jamaica itself, I sat up all night Friday night just to see the mountains, you know. And I was so happy that I cried when I saw, I don't know what hills it was first that I saw, but I saw Jamaica in hills for the first time. And I did have a good cry.
Does it live up to your dreams of it during the winters in England?
Well, yes. I don't mind the sun or the warmth because it's something that I knew about and I expect it would be warm. But I think I rather the sun than the frost and the fog.
How did you feel about seeing Michael again?
Well, that one, I don't think I could express a mother's feeling, really.
Nobody's business, business, nobody's business, business, nobody's business but me own. Solomon from Pagana, Ecuador, left me wife and picked me out the door. Nobody's business but me own. Solomon from Masville, she never beg tea when all brother saw me fowl and egg. Nobody's business but me own.
Keep on telling you, my friend.
Nobody's business, business, nobody's business, business, nobody's business but me own. Nobody's business, business, nobody's business, business, nobody's business but me own.
Jamaica's a great place for tourists. It's beautiful, but it's poor. Mrs. Tyson can't live on family charity forever. She'll have to try and get a job and find a school for John. For a middle-aged woman with arthritis and a boy halfway through his education, the future is not going to be all wide-eyed delight.
John, look there. Do you see those coconut trees?
Oh, yeah, water coconut.
And you see the birds on them?
Oh, yes, you know.
They are called crows.
So there's some crows up there.
Yeah, John Crows. John Crows. They eat dead flesh. Did I tell you that?
Some people can afford nostalgia. Here in Trinidad, Carl and Bernice Constantine, reunited after 6 months apart, enjoy a short holiday together before Carl starts work at the job he arranged before he left England. They've found a pleasant house for £9 a week in a suburb of Port of Spain where there's room for 2-year-old Colin to run around. Colin has every opportunity in Trinidad. His education, as in England, will most likely be free. His mother, Bernice, disillusioned by 6 years of being despised for her colour, feels that life in Trinidad is better in every way.
It's very, very much cheaper living
here, as I suppose in any tropical country. You don't have any fuel bills. It's easy, it's more relaxed, it's freer. I mean, the weather's almost always good. You can go out whenever you like, do all sorts of things. The windows are open, there are the beaches. There really are so many things that mean something to somebody, I suppose, who's been brought up in the tropics.
Is it just the tropics? Is it a sense of your own country?
Yes, there is a tremendous sense of being in one's own country, of being part of something belonging to you, sort of, or something that you belong to. It's something that you feel. You're bound to feel, for instance, if you spent perhaps a year or two in Tunisia or in Malaya or somewhere that you didn't particularly like and you came home again. I suppose it's difficult to make somebody understand what it feels like.
When people in England say to West Indians, go back to your own country, how much justice do you think there is in their saying that?
Oh, in their saying that? Well, I suppose we could say that to a lot of foreigners that are in our country, except that we don't, of course. I don't think they're justified at all.
What would you feel about bringing up Colin in England if you had to?
Oh, I should feel very, very strongly about that. This is one of the reasons I'm glad we're home now, before he's old enough even to go to school. I've seen this happen with West Indian children in England. They grow up isolated most of the time. I think it does something to a child. It's something that I myself never knew about, all this business of being coloured and being different and being made to feel that way. I didn't know anything about this until I went to England. I mean, one doesn't actually experience these things in one's own country, at least not in this country, perhaps in places like South Africa where feelings are more intense. And I think it's probably so much better for a child to go abroad in, shall we say, a hostile country when it's old enough to be able to take care of itself, when it can sort of strike back or understand what's happening.
What about this elusive thing, happiness? Do you think this is something that is easier to attain here than it is in England?
For us, I think it's bound to be. We are very happy here, just naturally very happy here, because it's our own country and we can do the things we want to do. If you prefer a simple life, I think it's much easier to attain what you want in a little tropical island. Lots of sunshine and beaches, and you're so nice and free. No smog and fog and snow and being shut up in the house all day with a little baby, not even able to run outside if you feel like it.
Trinidad, like Jamaica, is a great place to be rich in. It's got better beaches than Bournemouth and a climate to go with them. There's a lazy, tolerant atmosphere. What Carl calls laissez-faire seems to pervade the air. But for the poor, the beaches are too far away. The climate no substitute for better schools, better health services, more job opportunities. If you aren't a tourist paradise can be a bad place to be. It's perhaps only for people like Carl that life in Trinidad is more worthwhile than life in England.
Well, to me, and I suppose all of us, at the moment, the attributes of weather are obvious. The seaside, the sunshine, and the gait around the place is slower. So, and some people believe that life at a slower gait is more desirable now than, say, in the more advanced countries where you hustle around all the time. And we still get things done anyway, in a more casual way.
What do you really mean by the gait is slower, then?
Well, we do everything just a bit slower. I suppose we enjoy life more that way. We don't take things as seriously as other people do, as yet, anyway.
It's not all sunshine there, and it's not all slow gates. Are there any things that bother you about returning here?
Well, yes. The slow gait itself bothers me because having been educated in a country of a faster gait, I look upon the slow gait sometimes as a disadvantage. So I sort of between two worlds there. And I think as a modern accountant, I think of productivity and turnover And with a slow gate that's down, productivity will be lower, and that bothers me. But I try to adjust to this.
Has anything brought this home to you in the few days since you've been home?
Oh yes, I went to a bank to change some pounds into local currency yesterday, and it took me 30 minutes. And I said, well, not that it only took 30 minutes, but the teller, there was one customer in front of me, and she took 25 minutes to deal with this customer. And I said, well, they just don't value people's time around here. You know, you just stand around waiting for half an hour. Probably she would attend to about 6 customers in a day. At that rate, you know.
What does it mean to you to be reunited to your family after all this time?
Well, everything practically, because in this country and other West Indian islands, family life is about the most important thing, always has been. So that in itself is worth coming back. And, well, we are together now, and then anything else that comes would be sort of extra, come what may.
Do you think family life works better here than it does in England?
Yes, I haven't got the figures on this, but I believe that there are fewer divorces and things like that. Less strains on family life that you have in the more, what you call, affluent societies than we do here. So I think people stay together longer. Then we are more religious, even though some of us don't admit it. We have a very firm religious background and so on. And that would help to this solid staying on of couples together.
Do you think people are happier here?
Yes, I think so. I mean, only yesterday I was walking around the city for the first time, and I thought everyone was smiling. I wasn't. But they all seemed to be smiling. And I said, yeah, I have forgotten to smile. I have to learn to smile again, you know. They were all looking so happy. I wondered what they were happy about. And I said, yes, everybody is smiling. And that's the way it used to be. And since I've been to England, I've stopped smiling. I have to learn to smile. It's very difficult to smile now. I notice now that I've been back. You know, I have to sort of force myself to smile. While previously you just smiled naturally. So I think that must be happiness in some way, you know. It's not all money or riches, it's just happiness.
Happiness isn't always the first thing that you notice in the West Indies. In Scarborough, Tobago, the climate is beautiful, the beach is perfect, but the town is an ugly conglomeration of corrugated iron. There's not enough work, and for those that do work, the climate can be more of a disadvantage than a blessing. Juanita Graham and her family have now been here for 2 months, living with Othnell's parents in a pleasant little house in the hills above the town, which Mr. Graham Sr. built for his wife and 10 children. But again, the tropical paradise has its snags. Nobody starves in Tobago, but the food which grandmother brings to the table is almost entirely grown in their own garden. Land isn't cheap, houses hard to find, and jobs even harder.
Be present at our table, Lord. We thank Thee for this food which Thou hast provided for us. As we are about to use it, we ask Thee to bless it. May it be the means of strengthening us and do us good for Christ's sake. Amen.
Othnell isn't at the lunch table because he's already left, gone back to England in despair after 2 months of searching for a suitable job. His family is left behind, living on his parents' charity. For many West Indians with their strong family ties, this is a typical situation. A skilled man unable to find a job and forced to leave his wife and family living in somebody else's house. If Juanita is honest with herself, she knows that it was foolish of them to come back home.
I think we were foolish. Yes, because we didn't have enough money. But we were, you know, it wasn't a bad thing altogether because we met the family. I met the family, Othner met my family. So, we, you know, he never met my parents, I never met his. And for that reason, it seems as if it was almost worth it. Because now we're a family now, all of us.
What have you learned from coming back to the West Indies?
And you learn also that you need a capital here and you need some sort of a job before you come. Better to have a job, to get a job in England before coming and getting your house fixed up before you come. All these things. You have to be well prepared when you come here.
What happened when Arsenal tried to get a job?
There just wasn't any jobs available. Weren't any jobs available.
He did get one offer, didn't he? But it wasn't for enough money or something?
Get inside. Yes, got one offer eventually. But by that time, he had already decided to leave. And he decided that if he didn't go then, it meant that he might have failed down here, and then he would not have had enough money to go when he wanted to. So he thought it better go then.
How disappointed do you feel that Othniel felt that he had to go back to England?
Not disappointed. I feel that's not the word. We both feel like failures, really. We feel as if we didn't feel like failures leaving England, but we feel like failures going back to England. We feel as if we're doing something wrong in going back to England. I feel sometimes it would be better to stay down here and sacrifice, the luxury of higher education for the children and the medical services over there, and stay here and remain West Indians.
Why do you feel like failures there?
You mean to go back to England? Because England is not our country. So even though you have all these lovely things there, the facilities, we feel like failures because we can't accept what they have to offer down here, and be glad of it and try to build the country up with the rest of the people and go back to a country that's already built up. And we know we're not accepted in England. We know we're not English. So we know we'll be just immigrants over there.
Within 2 days of Othniel's returning to this country, he was offered 3 different jobs. Because he's black, they mayn't be the best jobs, but at least there's work and he can do it. Now he'll save money, and eventually his family will join him wherever he can find a home and a job that gives him his self-respect and his children the chance they deserve. That chance may well be in Britain, because whether we like it or not, Britain still has a responsibility towards the people of her former colonies. They don't come here for fun. Most of them would have preferred to stay at home, and many of those that do come long to go back. But going home is a dream which they can't afford to put into reality. They stay here not because they want to, but because they must. Go back where you came from is still just abuse. You can say it, you can sing about it, but it's no real solution.
People always crying to go to England to better their position, for there are opportunities over there. For you could be a doctor or lawyer, but you can't survive in a land that's unhealthy. For death will be your destiny, so my mind would be more at ease to be a pauper in the West Indies. Lord, look, I want to go. I can't stay here no more. The life in England is fine, but it just really ain't my kind. Boy, the healthy tropical sun, the friendly people to keep me warm.